My name is Ashley, and at 32, I've dedicated the past decade to my career, rising to a management position at Preston and Associates, while my younger sisters, Sarah and Emma, focused on building their families. I was scaling the corporate ladder. Don't misunderstand me. I adore my work, but occasionally I ponder what I might have missed. No husband, no children, just me in my corner office overlooking the city. It was a typical Tuesday morning when my phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, and I answered as I sifted through a pile of reports. "Hey, Ash." Sarah's cheerful voice came through the speaker. At 26, my youngest sister has always been the effervescent one. "Got a minute?" "Sure. What's up?" I moved some papers aside, half listening while reviewing quarterly figures. "So, you know Mom's turning 60 in 2 months, right?" She paused, waiting for confirmation. "Well, we're planning something really special, and we need everyone to contribute." That caught my full attention. "Okay, how much are we talking about?" When Sarah mentioned the amount, I practically choked on my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last vacation, which, now that I thought about it, was 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," Sarah hurried to add, "but it's for Mom, you know." No, it's fine," I said, already accessing my banking app. "I'll transfer it now." "Great. Oh, and one more thing. Make sure you take a week off work for the celebration. Don't make any other plans for that time, okay?" The following weeks were a whirlwind of meetings and deadlines. I'd occasionally ponder what my sisters were organizing with all that money, but whenever I inquired, they dismissed me with ambiguous answers. Eventually, work consumed me, and Mom's birthday receded from my thoughts. Then came Saturday dinner. We all convened at our parents' house. Mom and Dad, my sisters, Aunt Susan and her children, my cousins Michael and Rachel. The usual family dinner chaos ensued. Dad telling his well-worn jokes, Mom fussing over everyone's plates. The typical stuff. That's when Sarah dropped the bombshell. So she began, pushing her peas around her plate with feigned nonchalance. "We finally have everything booked for Mom's birthday. We're all going to spend a week at Mountain Pine Resort." The table erupted in excited chatter. Mom was beaming. Dad was already discussing hitting the slopes, and my sisters were debating which ski runs they wanted to try. "Why didn't anyone tell me sooner?" I asked, feeling somewhat excluded. "I don't even have a ski suit, and there's hardly any time to get one now." The table fell silent, too silent. Mom cleared her throat, and I felt my stomach sink before she even spoke. "Actually, honey," she said in that tone she reserves for when she's about to request a favor she knows I can't refuse, "we were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and watch the children while we're there." I stared at my family assembled around the dinner table, expecting someone to laugh, to reveal it was all a joke. But the silence lingered, punctuated only by the gentle clinking of silverware against plates. "You want me to watch the kids?" I finally managed to speak, my voice foreign to my own ears. "All 5 of them?" My mind automatically began tallying them. Emma's toddler, Jason, Sarah's baby girl, Lucy, cousin Michael's twins, Tom and Anna, and Rachel's son, Pete. 5 children under the age of 7. "Well, you're so good with them," Mom said, as if that explained everything. "They love their Aunt Ashley." I surveyed the table again, still hoping to detect a glimmer of humor in someone's eyes. There was none, only expectant faces awaiting my customary yes. "But that's not fair," I heard myself say, my voice trembling slightly. "I want to celebrate with everyone too. It's Mom's birthday." Emma, my 28-year-old sister, set down her fork with a sigh. "Come on, Ashley, you'll be bored there anyway. It's going to be noisy and crowded." "Bored?" I echoed. "Bored? How would you know if I'd be bored?" "Well," she continued, exchanging a look with Sarah, "you're great with the kids. They adore you. And let's be honest, it's not like you need a break from family life." "A break from family life?" I felt my chest constrict. "What's that supposed to mean?" Sarah interjected, her voice dripping with the condescending tone she'd perfected over the years. She just means that you don't have children or a husband to get away from, like the rest of us. We need this break, you understand, right? The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked back tears. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Instead, I quietly pushed back my chair and stood up. Ashley, Mom's voice held a hint of concern, but not enough to actually stop me. Without a word, I retrieved my purse from the counter and headed for the door. No one moved to stop me. No one called out. The only sound that followed me was Mom's voice drifting from the dining room. Don't worry. She'll be a little offended at first, but she'll come around. She always does. As I walked to my car, their voices faded behind me, already shifting to discussions of ski slopes and winter gear. The cool evening air brushed against my face, helping to clear my head. 10 years of prioritizing everyone else, of being the responsible one, the dependable one, and this was my reward. The worst part wasn't even the babysitting request. It was the casual way they'd assumed I'd agree, the manner in which they'd planned it. This whole thing, using my money, my time, my vacation days, without even asking, as if I were merely a resource to be exploited, not a family member to be included. I paced my apartment for half the night, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every instance when I dropped everything to assist someone else. The memories flooded back, each one taking on a new, darker significance in light of tonight's events. There I was at 16, preparing dinner while Mom helped Emma with her homework. Me at 18, declining a spring break trip with friends to watch Sarah while our parents enjoyed a weekend getaway. At 21, working 2 jobs during college to help pay for Emma's prom dress. The images kept appearing year after year, sacrifice after sacrifice. Ashley, can you watch Jason for a few hours? Emma's voice echoed in my mind. I really need a break. Ashley, would you mind taking the twins for the weekend? Michael's familiar request replayed like a broken record. Rachel's overwhelmed with Pete. And you're so good with kids. I'd always agreed. Always. Even when I had crucial meetings the next day. Even when I was exhausted from my own work week. I'd taken pride in being the dependable one, the responsible sister, the perfect daughter. I collapsed onto my couch, the leather cool against my skin. The photo albums on my coffee table caught my attention. Family vacations, where I was perpetually behind the camera. Holiday gatherings where I was invariably in the kitchen while everyone else enjoyed themselves in the living room. When was the last time someone had inquired about my desires? It's not like you need a break from family life. Sarah's words reverberated in my mind, as if my life, my career, my choices were somehow less significant because I wasn't married with children, as if all my sacrifices were meaningless because they didn't conform to their definition of what mattered. Sleep evaded me that night. I tossed and turned, recalling how I'd worked my way through college on a scholarship, determined not to burden my parents financially, how I'd launched my career immediately after graduation, contributing to putting both my sisters through school. All those late nights at the office, ascending the corporate ladder, sending portions of my salary home to assist with family expenses. By morning, my mind was made up. I wasn't confrontational, never had been. There had to be a way to resolve this peacefully, to make them understand without creating a family rift. So I did what I always did when faced with a problem. I tried to fix it. I waited until a reasonable hour on Sunday morning before calling Mom. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hi, Mom, I said, keeping my voice level. I've been thinking about the resort trip. Actually, I have a solution. I'll pay for a professional babysitter for all 5 kids. That way, everyone can enjoy the celebration together. The silence on the other end stretched for an uncomfortably long time. That won't work, Ashley, Mom finally said. Her voice strained. We can't trust some stranger with the children. They're used to you. Mom, I want to be part of the celebration too, I attempted to explain. I want to be there for your birthday. I could find a really good babysitter, someone with excellent references. You know you're not exactly a social butterfly, she interrupted. her tone sharp. You'd probably be uncomfortable with all the noise and activity anyway. The children will keep you busy, and you enjoy spending time with them. It's perfect for everyone. The click of the call ending resonated in my ear before I could reply. I remained there, phone still pressed to my ear, as my mother's words sank in. She hadn't even bothered to say goodbye. I was still staring at my phone, processing my mother's abrupt disconnection when it buzzed again. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. "How dare you?" she hissed before I could even speak. "Mom just told me about your little suggestion about hiring a babysitter. Are you trying to ruin everything?" I sat up straighter, taken aback by my sister's hostile tone. "Ruin everything? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone." "We already have a solution." Sarah's voice rose. "Everything's planned, Ashley. Everything. And now you're being completely selfish, trying to change all our arrangements at the last minute." The accusation stung. "I'm being selfish?" "Yes, you are. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's excited. The resort is booked. The activities are scheduled. And now you want to throw a wrench in everything because you can't just do this one thing for the family." My hand trembled. "One thing? Are you serious? You know what? If you ruin this trip for everyone, if you spoil Mom's birthday celebration, don't bother talking to me again. I mean it, Ashley." The line went dead. I sat there, stunned by my younger sister's threat. Then my phone buzzed with incoming messages, this time from Emma. "Family needs to stick together." Her first text read, "We all help each other out." Another message appeared. "Remember when I watered your flowers last year while you were at that conference?" And another, "You're good with the kids. They love you. Why can't you just forget about being resentful and—" My fingers flew across the keyboard as I replied, "A real family doesn't take advantage of one another. A real family respects each other's wishes and includes everyone in their plans. A real family doesn't manipulate and guilt trip each other." Each. I watched the 3 dots appear and disappear repeatedly, but no response came. That's when it hit me. The way they'd requested money without explaining its purpose, the calculated way they told me to take time off work without mentioning the resort, the casual manner in which they'd announced their plans at dinner, as if everything was already settled. They'd orchestrated this all along, while I was working late nights, while I was babysitting their children, while I was being the perfect daughter and sister. They were secretly arranging this trip. They'd used my money, manipulated my schedule, and planned to burden me with 5 children without so much as a discussion. And now that I wasn't complying with their script, they were resorting to every manipulation tactic imaginable. Guilt, threats, emotional blackmail, to force me back into the box they designed for me. Something remarkable occurs when you finally see through the haze of manipulation. Everything becomes strikingly clear. I felt lighter than I had in years. The guilt that had been weighing me down was replaced by something else. Resolve. I opened my laptop and began searching. Within an hour, I'd booked a beachfront hotel in Florida. Nothing extravagant, but it had a balcony overlooking the ocean and was within walking distance of everything I might need. I even splurged on a first-class plane ticket. After all, I had plenty of money saved since I wouldn't be skiing. The next few days at work were surprisingly tranquil. My family had ceased calling and texting. They probably assumed I was home preparing for a week of childcare, perhaps buying extra snacks and planning activities. The thought made me smile as I packed my beach clothes and new swimsuit. Taking a tropical vacation in the middle of winter? My colleague, Janet, inquired when she saw me checking the Florida weather forecast. "Sometimes you need to do something unexpected," I replied, surprised by how satisfying it felt to verbalize those words. On the morning of my flight, I took one last look around my apartment. I'd cleaned everything meticulously, force of habit, I suppose. The empty fridge, the securely locked windows, everything in perfect order, just like always. Except this time, I wouldn't be here to answer any frantic calls for babysitting. As the plane ascended, I switched off my phone and stowed it in my bag. No social media, No email, no family drama. Just me, the beach, and a whole week of freedom. The Florida air enveloped me like a warm embrace as I exited the airport. Palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, and I could smell the salty ocean air even from this distance. My hotel room was even more appealing than the pictures. The balcony provided a perfect view of the endless blue horizon, and I could hear the waves crashing against the shore. That first afternoon, I strolled barefoot on the beach, letting the warm sand sift between my toes. When was the last time I'd done something like this? When was the last time I'd done anything solely for myself? I swam in the hotel pool, read a book without interruption, and dined at a quiet beachside restaurant where no one required me to cut their food or clean up their spills. I watched the sunset from my balcony, savoring a glass of wine without a single thought about bedtime routines or morning schedules. On my last morning in Florida, I relished my final moments of peace. I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually, confront whatever chaos I'd left behind. But I hadn't anticipated the sheer volume of what awaited me. When my phone finally powered up, it began buzzing incessantly. Messages, voicemails, calls, hundreds of them. The timestamps indicated they'd started precisely a week ago, early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I began scrolling through them. The first messages were from Sarah. "Where are you? We're outside your house." Then Emma. "Ashley, open the door. The kids are getting restless." Michael. "Hey, we brought Tom and Anna like planned. Are you home?" Rachel. "Ashley, what's going on? Pete's asking for his aunt." As I read through the messages, I could vividly picture the scene. My sisters and cousins standing outside my empty house with 5 bewildered children, their suitcases packed for the resort, their carefully laid plans disintegrating around them. The tone of the messages quickly shifted from confusion to panic. "Ashley, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone." "What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." Then came the anger. Sarah's messages became vicious. "You selfish witch. How could you do this to us?" Emma wasn't much better. "I can't believe you're this immature. Mom's birthday is ruined because of you." My Aunt Susan's messages shocked me. I'd never seen her use such language before. "You ungrateful little. You've ruined." Everything those kids were depending on hinged on me, yet my mom's messages didn't start until later that day. "I was incredibly let down by you, Ashley. I couldn't believe you'd act so self-centered after all we've done." Dad, who hardly ever texts, sent a single message. "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were even worse. I could hear the fury, the disillusionment, the accusations in their tones. Messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in ages suddenly popped up, all criticizing my actions. "You've always been so dependable. How could you do this to your family? Those poor children. You've ruined everything." I sat there in my tranquil hotel room, reading message after message, discovering precisely what my family thought of me when I finally stopped being their convenient fix. The language they used, the names they called me, the assumptions they made about my character. It felt like encountering a completely different family, one concealed behind forced smiles and casual requests for favors. Without replying to any of them, I packed my suitcase and went to the airport. It was time to return home, but I wasn't the same Ashley who had left a week earlier. That Ashley might have apologized, might have felt remorseful, might have attempted to make amends, but that Ashley was gone. I had just finished unpacking my beachwear when I heard the forceful banging on my front door. Before I could even reach it, I heard a key turning in the lock, the emergency key I'd given my mother years ago, just in case. They stormed in like a raging tempest, Mom leading the attack, Emma and Sarah flanking her, all of them red-faced and furious. The sense of peace I had cultivated in Florida vanished in an instant. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Sarah yelled, advancing towards me. You ruined everything, everything. I stood my ground, watching them unleash their rage in my living room, the same living room where I'd babysat their children countless times, where I'd canceled my own plans to accommodate their crises, where I'd always been the dependable one. Mike and John refused to stay with the kids, Emma spat, referring to their husbands. They both suddenly had important business to take care of, so Sarah had to stay home with all 5 children while we went to the resort. She missed Mom's birthday because of you. The whole trip was ruined, Mom added, her voice escalating. Nobody could enjoy themselves. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us, how you let everyone down. Your father couldn't even ski properly. He was so upset. They continued their tirade, talking over each other, each vying to express their disappointment and anger more vehemently than the others. The more they spoke, the more preposterous it all became, until something within me snapped, but not in the way they anticipated. I started laughing. The sound of my laughter cut through their accusations like a sharp blade. They stopped mid-sentence, staring at me as if I had gone insane. What's so funny? Mom demanded, her face darkening. What could possibly be funny about this situation? I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes. Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now? Absurd? Emma spluttered. What's absurd about you? You secretly planned this entire trip, I interrupted, my laughter subsiding but my voice firm. You decided without consulting me that I would watch your children. You took my money, told me to take time off work, and then just assumed I would comply with your plans. And now that everything fell apart because of your assumptions, you're here branding me the villain. Key, but you've always helped before, Mom said, her voice softer now, bewildered. You've never said no. And that's exactly the problem, I cut in. Because I always helped, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or a sister and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life. That's not true, Sarah protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you just assume I'd be happy to stay behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated? I watched their faces, hoping to see some acknowledgement, some understanding of how they had treated me. Instead, I saw their expressions harden. You're being selfish, Mom said, her voice cold. You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed the children. This isn't how I raised you. I felt the last thread of hope break. No, Mom, you're the ones being selfish. This whole situation is your fault, not mine. Mom drew herself up to her full height, her face like stone. If that's how you feel, then perhaps I don't have a daughter named Ashley anymore. If that's what you want, Mom, I said quietly, then so be it. It's been 6 weeks since that final confrontation in my living room. 6 weeks of silence broken only by the occasional notification when one of my family members makes another thinly veiled post on social media. Some people only think about themselves, Mom wrote last week, followed by a dozen crying emojis. Sarah's social media post yesterday, a picture of her daughter with a caption about being blessed to have understanding people in her life, garnered supportive comments from relatives and family friends who, of course, only hear her side of things. They echo the sentiment that family should always come first. Emma's latest post, a lengthy diatribe about toxic individuals who selfishly sever family ties, didn't name me directly, yet everyone knew it was aimed at me. A few months ago, these kinds of posts would have left me reeling. I would have agonized over potential responses, losing sleep while questioning my own actions. Now, I simply scroll past, occasionally with a wry smile at their predictability. My weekends are no longer spent on high alert, waiting for emergency babysitting requests. I've joined a local book club, and it felt surprisingly liberating to sit in a coffee shop last Saturday morning, knowing my phone wouldn't ring, with a frantic plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I booked a solo trip to Europe for the spring. I didn't need to consult anyone's calendar or worry about conflicting schedules. I saw a good deal and seized the opportunity. In quiet moments, I do think about my nieces and nephews. I miss them, but not the way they were wielded against me. I hold on to the hope that someday, when they're older, they'll understand. Perhaps they'll even recognize similar dynamics in their own lives and make different choices. I still have the house key Mom used that final day. I really should return it, but something prevents me. A part of me still wishes they'll eventually see things from my perspective, recognize the unfairness of their expectations and how they exploited my love. I hope they'll realize that family doesn't equate to self-sacrifice for everyone else's needs. But I'm no longer waiting for that realization. I'm not holding my life hostage to their approval or understanding. For the first time, I'm prioritizing myself, and it feels remarkably right. Yesterday, I silently deleted the family group chat from my phone. No announcements, no explanations. Just a quiet removal of myself from one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some, especially my family, would label this as selfish. But I've learned the crucial difference between selfishness and self-respect. Sometimes, the most beneficial action you can take is to distance yourself from those who can't see your value beyond what you can do for them.